Three, two, one, liftoff.
Cannabinoid Connect, the nation's most diverse cannabis-related podcast.
Jenae, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we were kind of laughing as we kicked off because for those of you who are not watching the podcast but listening, Jenae's shirt is awesome. It's super American. Cannabis helps. Loud and proud. I love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So talk to me. Tell me a little bit about your background. I understand that you are a veteran yourself, and the focus of this conversation today, at least what I want to touch on a lot, is your advocacy for veterans' right to heal, right? And specifically in the context of cannabis. So before we dive into that, first tell us about yourself. What brought you here?
All right. I'm a Navy veteran. I served 8 years active duty in the Navy. I actually joined the Navy from a homeless shelter when I was 18 years old. I was living in the streets of Hollywood. Joined the Navy from a homeless shelter. I served about 8 years active duty. I was one of the first to deploy after 9/11, so I'm aging myself a little bit here. And then I got out of the military and I worked my way up through the Navy ranks as a civilian. And about 5 years ago, I was brought out to San Antonio as the Chief of Air Force Lodging, spent the last 5 years overseeing the entire Air Force hotel portfolio. Lateral to that, though, as I was doing that work, I was also kind of growing a social media presence, starting to build community amongst the veteran community. And I started to have this amazing community. I wasn't sure really what to do with it. I was sharing a little bit of my story here and there, my personal story. But I was kind of scared to do that also. And I decided to just go ahead and put a book out. That book pushed me fully into advocacy. And this year, the beginning of this year, I ended up leaving my federal job and moving full time into advocacy with the Grunt Foundation. So what I do now, I advocate for veteran mental health, and then I advocate against certain injustices against the military community.
Such an important role that you play. I mean, because undoubtedly, unquestionably, our veterans, and it's unfortunate to say, but in most cases, they kind of get put aside after they've served their time. I've heard mixed things about the VA and the support that they get there, coming from veterans within my own family. So just talk to me about why this is important. I mean, for obvious reasons, but why you're passionate about it as well.
It's a little bit personal at first, right? So over the last couple years, I've gone through some personal hardships, and I was going through those hardships. I went to the VA to try to seek help for that. And I didn't really get much time with my psychiatrist. He talked a little bit to me, gaslit me some about what I was going through, and then prescribed me some antidepressants, and sent me on my way. I didn't really get much follow-up after that, and I ended up getting a refill on those prescriptions. So they weren't monitoring how the prescription pills were affecting me. And if I had taken those, it may have put me in a state of lethargy. It may have put me in a state of disassociation, and it would have actually compounded the issues that I was dealing with. The issues that I was dealing with just was required for me to be able to talk to people and have somebody who, when you're going through a hard time, you're going through a hardship, you kind of have a fog that takes over. And so for someone like myself who's in the advocacy space, I understand what the resources are and what's out there. But like, as I'm in the middle of my own mental health crisis, I can't think straight. I'm not sure, what to do. And so having people in my circle who can sit down and say, okay, what are you dealing with? Let's focus on this first and then move through this. Just that clarity of mind. If I had started that medication, wouldn't have had the clarity of mind, probably wouldn't have reached out to those friends, and I wouldn't have pulled through the issues that I was dealing with. So for me, it was a hemp-derived THC. Delta-9 is what I was using. Being able to, just when that anxiety rose and kind of creeped up inside of me and I started to feel overwhelmed, being able to use that product to just calm down, get the pause that I needed, and then be able to come back later and address the issues helped me as a veteran. And so as I started to kind of dig into the issues that are affecting our military community, we have a suicide rate of anywhere from 17 to 22 a day. That's what's reported.
Wild.
Yeah, and that's just what's reported. So we believe that number is much higher, possibly even double that, because if you think about those that aren't reported to the VA, as well as those that are considered accidental, say somebody drives their car at 100 miles an hour into a wall, that could be considered an accident instead of a suicide, right? Or if they overdose on these prescription pills, that could be considered an overdose, not a suicide.
It sounds how
So
like how they categorize death during COVID. You know how they're
exactly that,
playing from
right?
the same playbook. Yeah,
Everybody died from COVID during COVID, right?
right.
So yeah, so as I start kind of you start kind of looking into that, you think like, what is it that's really what are we missing? Where are we missing the mark on this? And we're so hyper focused on the problem, which is the suicide, that we're not looking at what the solution is, and that is healed veterans. We need veterans that are healed, that are able to pursue healing modalities that work best for them, and then they can go out and they can thrive in society. Veterans tend to join the military because they want to serve. They want to be of service to the community. And then they get out, they're all broken. They go to the VA, they get this medication, they become lethargic, and they're not able to give back and continue to serve, which is what their heart desires. So, really helping people heal and then reconnect with the soul and be able to get out and serve the community. And that's what I do. And that's why we advocate for these products. It may not be for everyone, but we want to make sure that for those who it is being used by and those who are thriving in society because of it, we want to make sure that that remains available and accessible to them.
Absolutely. And how is that received? I mean, when you talked about when you first kind of chose to focus on hemp-derived THC, right? For when your anxiety would hit. I mean, that was, I don't know when that was, but I mean, I could imagine that it wasn't probably widely accepted within the federal space. And today we still kind of fight, obviously we fight prohibition at that level, but what is the appetite when it comes to veterans, and what is the federal government? We know what the state of Texas is, but what's the federal government's stance on this?
It's interesting you asked that because the first time I testified against the attempt to ban hemp was actually last May. I was still a federal employee, a pretty high-ranking federal employee, and I was actually just going up to the House to support my friend Mitch Fuller, who everybody kind of knows right now. He's leading the fight for the veteran community. So I was going up to support my friend Mitch, and he said, "Jenae, I want you to testify as well." And I thought, oh, man, I'm gonna get in trouble for this, like I don't know if I can if I could do this, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna testify because this is something that helps me. Um, we're not supposed to, on a federal level, consume THC.
Right.
So anybody who's in the military or who serves federally can't consume it, even if you live in a state where it's legal. Same with cannabis, not hemp, hemp-derived THC. So wherever it's legal, even though it's legal, you still can't have it because you're a federal employee. So I was like, I'm just gonna get up there and I'm gonna testify because again, I'm service based, right? I'm purpose driven. I want to help the community. And if my voice can have an impact, then that's a risk I'm willing to take. So I did. I testified. It was a powerful testimony. But when I shared it on social media, I just shared like certain clips. like like maybe they won't put two and two together that I actually took these products. And I also didn't give a timeline. So I did that testimony, and I remember afterwards, all I could think about is like, what are the repercussions going to be for this? Am I gonna get called in? Am I gonna get drug tested? Are they gonna what are the repercussions? And then you have to take it even beyond that as a veteran. Sorry, can you edit
No.
that part? I have to scratch my nose.
I did it also. You're good.
Okay, good. We'll take like a nose scratching moment. And then you have to think beyond whenever you do that. And then you have to think beyond that as a veteran, some of the other repercussions that you could face. So, for example, your VA benefits, or who knows how those could be impacted because you're not taking the SSRIs and the medication they're giving you. You're taking products that are not available to you. And then you look at, having your name on a list and having them take away your Second Amendment rights, background clearances, job potential in the future. There's already so much profiling that happens towards veterans as it is. Now you add in there that they're consuming a drug and it starts to hurt them. So For me,
Schedule
the
one
first time,
drug, which is
huh?
even Schedule one drug, which is even crazy right now to this day.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts on that, right? We call plant medicine a drug, and then we call these uh, drugs medication that's legal. And so I have issue with that. I take issue with
Right.
that. So with regards to how it's like affecting the veteran community and how hard it is to come out, I remember how anxious I was. This year, we went out there to testify in opposition of SB3, and there was more veterans that showed up courageously to testify. And what it did, I think, was it kind of gave permission to those who have been like not sure if they should speak up, that they see people like the Texas VFW commander, the VFW legislative chairman, influencers, big influencers who they respect and they know wouldn't put their livelihood at risk. When they start to see people like that come forward, they think, you know what? I'd like to actually share my story as well. And so I think for the first time ever in Texas during this SB3 saga, you actually saw tons, hundreds for sure, if not thousands of veterans just come out of the woodwork and say, I'm ready to speak up because I don't want this taken away. I need this
Right.
in order to live. So do I stay here in fear or do I fight so that I can have this product that will help me continue to live and live a healthy, thriving life?
And if you're looking at that objectively, I think it's very clear that that narrative is much more real and much more impactful than what, say, Dan Patrick is pushing when it comes to children are at risk, right? I don't know anybody, at least in my network, of cannabis or hemp owners, operators in Texas that are advocating for people under 21 to consume cannabis or to just consume these products. So it's completely ridiculous. And it's the same, I use the word playbook again. It's the same playbook, from the reefer madness days. And what blows my mind is he thinks that it's going to work. Like, I hope that his team and him saw the pushback. I mean, we all joined in on the fun. I mean, like, some of those memes were hilarious.
I always say that when you go on a crusade, you lose. So he was in the winning seat. He got the bill passed, right? And so he was in the winning seat. He should have just kind of sat back, let us all cry about it,
Yep, you're
and
right.
let it die down. But instead, he went on a crusade. Yeah. And through his crusade, he gave us ammunition and he just made it, he really underestimated our generation because we're just a bunch of jokesters, but that's actually how we get information widely spread. So
Yep.
people who didn't even know this was happening, people who weren't aware of it, who didn't know about like other stories like the veterans, who hadn't heard that side of the narrative, because of the ammunition he gave us that was able to push out these memes and these jokes, it started landing on, the FYPs of people who didn't even have an opinion on it. And then they were like, well, now I'm pissed. Now I want to get in this fight. So it backfired on him. And I really hope that those who are in office are taking notes and learning that,
Yep.
the old tactics don't work anymore.
No.
We are outsmarting them and we're using social media to be able to outsmart them. And we're using humor and we're
That's right.
using, the ability to kind of come together. They brought the left, the right, the middle, everyone came together on this topic. I never thought I'd see something like this in my lifetime, especially
No.
over weed, cannabis, like this drug that we were taught growing up. What was it? The don't ask. What is those bracelets we had
Dare.
to have and the ribbons we had to have as kids, right? And then
Yeah.
here we are now.
It's so funny. And when you talk about the backfire and the pushback in Texas, because I saw it on my TikTok channel, because I was taking the goodness of what you did at the at the hearing and your testimony, as well as John Burke's, and to see the discussions that came about. You're right. Like, people just came out of the woodwork that were just kind of eating potato chips on the couch going, hold on, THC ban in Texas? No, freedom, right? And the funny thing about that is it speaks to Texas's ethos. I mean, at our core, we love freedom, we love our country, we love our state, we love our community, our people. And so it's like, that's one thing. Cannabis use is just, people see it just like drinking a beer or, drinking whiskey or what have you. And don't take that away from me. How dare
Yeah,
you?
and sometimes we talk about it in the veteran community, especially with me, because of the space I'm in, it's more the healing space, right? So I'll talk about, being intentional with your use when you're
Sure,
using
sure.
it. So I'm more intentional, right? Prior to consuming these products, I set my intention. So we do it from a more of a medicinal, but you shouldn't have to. Because here's the thing, recreational alcohol is available, right?
Drive-throughs.
Guns are available.
Yeah.
So if these things are available recreationally, why is a plant not?
Right.
And
Right.
so, yes, do I advocate and do I share that we're using this medicinally or that this is helping people from a mental health perspective? I do. Do I believe that the people who are using it recreationally should be put in jail? Absolutely not. Again, age gating, definitely necessary. We don't
Of
want our kids
course.
out there because they don't know how to do it responsibly, right?
Right.
Listen, there's adults that don't know how to do alcohol responsibly and they're out there doing alcohol. I mean, we see Dan Patrick's nose. There's people
Yep.
who are out there drinking alcohol irresponsibly. When he held up that bag of product, actually,
Oh
I feel
my
like I have it here
gosh.
near me. When he held
Throw
up
it to
that bag,
me.
I just happened to have some. I happen to have that like almost identical product. But when he held up that bag of product and he said, if you eat this whole bag, you'll die. I thought, well, let me go grab a big ass bottle of vodka and say the same thing, but it's
Right.
available.
Right. And
So,
one's true and one's not, because even if you took that amount, you'd probably lose your mind and you'd
yep.
probably need to go to the hospital and it'd probably be the worst experience of your life. But I don't think you'd die. And if you drank a full, like you said, bottle of alcohol, you guaranteed would die. You
You're gonna
will.
die. What's
Yeah.
more is, for someone who deals with mental health issues, I guess you could say, I've had alcohol, and alcohol sends me to a dark, it's the spirits, right? It sends you to a dark, dark place. And oftentimes I've felt like it gives me more of the courage to take my life. Whereas when I've had moments where I'm feeling despair and I take the Delta-9, a gummy, or I smoke cannabis, all it does is make me calm down and like want to take a nap or eat something. So,
Right.
but it doesn't give me the courage to do that. It's just kind of like that build up. It just suddenly goes away within seconds. And
Hmm.
so, having that readily accessible to people where they can just go to the corner store and pick it up is actually necessary. Just as necessary as, or way more necessary than being able to go to the corner store and grab a bottle of liquor.
Right. No, and you use the word intentionality, and I love it because they really go hand in hand. Cannabis use, hemp-derived THC use, and intentionality. And you can't use that word with alcohol. It just doesn't. Alcohol has other benefits that I would say. Like it's a social lubricant. So if you wanted to really, generate ideas and talk with people and kind of, but there's only a limit of so far you can go with that, right? I mean, before
Exactly.
it gets ugly and nasty. Whereas with hemp and THC, you can control that, right? If you know what you're doing. So
Exactly that. Yeah, there's no
yeah.
benefits really to alcohol. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. You can't use it for healing, right?
No, no. The
But
only
yet it's
time
available everywhere you go.
it's exactly, and it's available, and it's society, right? It's something that's accepted, and but more and more how you talked about building this platform of change and how people are coming together and we're resharing the content, and we're coming up with fun, creative, humorous ways to tell the story. That's what it's about, and I'm seeing the needle move. I mean, obviously in Texas, which is a super red state, traditional conservative values. I mean, cannabis thrives here, right? Because the
Yeah.
people want to use it. So tell me more about your platform for change. I know you said that you're, kind of really focusing on social media, and I know that the special legislation session for SB3 is coming up. So, I mean, what do you think? What's going to happen there? What are your plans? And I don't
Well,
know.
I think that it's important to keep the momentum going and to keep the voices loud. I don't think we want to back off. The legislative or the special session starts on July 21st. I don't want to talk too much to it. I'd say follow the Texas Hemp Business Council because Cynthia does a great job at putting information out on that. And so we're all kind of aligning with their guidance just to make sure. I think that's one of the things that's important when you're dealing with advocacy is don't let them pin us against each other, right? And that's what they want.
Right.
They want to start pinning industries against each other. They want to start pinning advocates against each other, businesses against each other.
It's happening too
Don't,
on X.
I'm
It's
seeing it.
happening. Yeah.
Mhm. Don't let that happen because then you fall right into their trap. These are their strategic moves. That's all he's got working for him right now is just letting us do some infighting and then we're so focused on all these other things over here that we all forget that we're supposed to be uniting together in this one movement, right? So everybody kind of stay together in this, follow along with one another. Obviously, be fierce, be bold, continue to speak up, continue to call your representatives, find out who voted yes, and flood their inboxes. I have gotten some inside intel that there's a lot that actually regret voting in favor of SB3. And so get in there, start flooding their inboxes, make sure they understand. For those who voted no, obviously, we want to make sure we continue to provide them the support that they need. And I think I'll do my best not to speak too much to what I expect to happen, but there are other initiatives they need to speak to, and we're kind of hopeful that because once they start on one, they have to stick with it until they get through it. We're kind of hopeful that there's a higher priority one that might end up pushing all the way through the special session in anyways. But we can't take our foot off the gas on this, and we have to continue to work together, continue to stay united, and then you know what? Continue to use humor because that's what we do, and that's how we all bond and we get information out really fast. Is just by being silly and having fun with it because this is bringing us to who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk
I
that
know.
cannabis would bring Texas together.
I
So
know.
I think, like you said, you would think that it's a Republican state and a conservative state by large. So I guess we're now finding out that this is an important initiative to that side, and that's good to know. And so there's just a lot of people who are starting to feel like they have permission to speak up and share their truth on this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's well said. And I mean, outside of this special session coming up, I mean, what else are you focused on in terms of, being purpose driven, and really focusing, like you said, about suicide prevention, healing, and holistic support as it relates to these veterans?
So we have, like I said, we have a veteran a suicide pandemic. A couple, like last month, we actually held what's called War Cry for Change up in DC. We had a press conference at the House Triangle and then we also held a roundtable inside of the Capitol where we had five congressmen and one senator present, and then we also had some of the senior people in the HHS present for this. Our fight is against the overprescribing of SSRIs and antidepressants on our veterans. Not only the overprescribing, but also teaching them how to properly titrate off those or helping them properly titrate. You take these medications, you start taking them, and us veterans were very stubborn. So we're like, I don't like the way this feels. I'm going to stop right now. Well, what happens is that actually can make you 3 to 4 times more suicidal than before you even walked into the VA with issues. And so we want to make sure that we're bringing awareness. If you're taking SSRIs or antidepressants, look for the black box label and find out what the warnings are on that. If you're wanting to get off of it, make sure you're properly titrating off of it. And then we want to get healed veterans out there. So we have a program called Irreverent Warriors. We have about 79 chapters throughout the country. Bring veterans who are feeling isolated in using humor and camaraderie. And then once they're in working with us, we start introducing them to various healing modalities. So this isn't the only one, plant-based medicine. We have beekeeping, falconry. There's various healing modalities that we want to introduce them to so that they can start to find the thing that helps them heal. Everybody heals differently. So in September, we have an integration retreat where they can come up to St. Louis and they can kind of explore some of the modalities we have. So those are some of the things that we're working on at the Grunt Foundation. I think what you guys have seen more is like our legislative advocacy, but we actually have programs where we're able to support veterans and bring them in and get them healing. And it brings great joy to be able to do this full time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I want to talk a bit more about Grunt Style. So is that based here in Texas, and are you nationwide, or do you just focus on the Texas veterans, or?
Grunt Style LLC is home based in San Antonio, and then Grunt Style Foundation is actually home based in St. Louis. And we are nationwide, and then we have a program under us called Irreverent Warriors, and there's chapters throughout the entire country. There's even some overseas. We are nationwide, helping veterans throughout the entire country, and they can find us at gruntstylefoundation.org.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I guess one last thing I kind of want to touch on. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's, the emergence of, we're talking in the context of plant medicine, but psilocybin treatment, right? And we're seeing that psilocybin, particularly in the medical side, is really helping when it comes to, anxiety, depression, addiction, and so on. And so, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have any experience yourself as a veteran?
So as a foundation, this is we are huge proponents and advocates for it. We actually take people down to South America and we help them with getting the treatment. So this is one of the modalities that we introduce. Very big proponents of it. I will be having my first in the coming months. So I've been kind of preparing for it, and I'm looking forward to it. I've heard the co-owner of Grunt Style, Tim Jensen, our executive director. Their testimonies are powerful in that it was just one ayahuasca experience or journey, and it completely changed their life. Got them off alcohol, off cigarettes. There was just so many changes that came in their life just from that one journey, and so. We are proponents of it. We work closely with those who are providing these opportunities, and we make sure that we help get veterans with getting those. So, huge proponents.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I can even speak from my own personal experience. It is definitely life-changing. And the fact that you can do it in a controlled environment where, they really focus on the objective at hand, right? Whether it is getting rid of addiction or depression, it's truly amazing. So good luck on
And it
your
kind of helps
upcoming.
with the titrating. Sorry.
No,
It
go
kind of
ahead.
helps
Yeah.
with the titrating off of these medications as well.
Yeah.
And I will say that as a veteran community, this is the first time we're actually seeing the conversation being had by the Secretary of the VA, RFK. Trump is the president has also spoken about it. So hearing them speak in favor and of wanting to pursue and possibly introduce these modalities to our veterans at the VA. I think one was that they want to start introducing it within 12 months. That gives us hope, and that makes us feel like, okay, we're going to start seeing some progress, and we're going to start seeing those suicide numbers come down because people are able to pursue these other modalities. So shout out to the Secretary of the VA because he's listening. And then also to Brian Hubbard and his team for getting the largest ibogaine bill passed here in Texas. That was research, that was huge. And that's Texans right now, Texas veterans are paving the way for veterans throughout the entire nation. The stuff that we're doing with that ibogaine bill, with the SB3, we're coming out and we're saying, listen, we're going to fight relentlessly for the mental health of our veterans. And we're going to fight here in Texas, and we know that that's going to expand throughout the nation. So I'm honored to be amongst that group.
It's amazing. I'm just honored to have people like y'all on the podcast and sharing all the great work that you're doing on the ground. So really, really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with before we go here?
So I just want to say thank you to you and to some of the other podcasters for really elevating the voices of our veterans and elevating this issue and helping us to shed light on how these products are helping us as well with our mental health. And to those who are out there, again, if you're taking any of these medications, SSRIs, antidepressants, look at the black box warning. And, if you're interested in pursuing these healing modalities, come to Grunt Style Foundation or another organization that is offering introduction to them and start really working towards your healing because you deserve it.
Awesome. Where can they find y'all?
You can find us at Grunt Style Foundation across all platforms. And then you can find me at Jenae_perfectly_flawed on across all platforms as well.
Boom. Jenae, thank you so much again. Really a pleasure talking with you today. Let's run it back sometime soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. And good luck with the special session coming up. And thank you all for listening. Bye.
Cannabinoid Connect, the nation's most diverse cannabis-related podcast.